Hey guys, this is Mrs. Harbin, and we are going to continue with Chapter 1 of Pre-Calculus and look at Lesson 3, Reference Angles. Now, our life application for this unit is this. We want you, as students, to be aware of angles in creation. Just as each geometric angle has a precise measurement when properly aligned with the measuring tool, protractor, so too the angle that the student's life, your life takes, will have a precise direction in life if you're properly aligned with God's Word. We know that God is a God of order and that He has provided specific instructions not only for measurement, but for how we're supposed to live our lives. And we want you to take that principle and apply that in your life, not just in mathematics. Our objective for today is this. We want you, the student, to be able to find reference angles and use them to determine trig ratios. So what is a reference angle? Well, a reference angle is the angle formed by the terminal ray of the given angle and the x-axis. Let's take a look at an example in just a moment. By drawing a perpendicular segment from any point on the terminal ray to the x-axis, you will form a reference triangle. So let's take a look. All right, we've got a picture of 210 degrees, a 210 degree angle here. Let's go ahead and label our axis. You have your x-axis here and your y-axis here. And over here you've got your initial ray going along the x-axis. And then we've got your terminal ray where your angle stops. I didn't trace the line very well there. And we've got 210 degrees. Now, according to our definition, that reference angle is the angle formed by the terminal ray of the given angle in the x-axis. So this right here, the angle between the terminal ray and our x-axis, let me kind of scribble it nice and dark so you can see it there. This is our reference angle. And because we know how much the distance is from 0 to our x-axis, because we know that this right here is 180 degrees, we're able to figure out how much this reference angle is right here. So we're going to use that information to help us find the sine of 210 degrees. So first we're going to sketch the angle and the reference triangle. We're going to take that point on the x-axis and draw a line down to the terminal angle. That forms a perpendicular line there and a right triangle. So that creates our reference triangle. We then figure out that our reference angle, 210 minus 180 degrees, is 30 degrees. So we now know that this angle right here is 30 degrees. If we know that that angle is 30 degrees, we can go back to our unit circle and look at what the sine of 30 degrees is. Now, we have a fully labeled unit circle, so this 210 is already on your unit circle. But using the reference angle, we can go back and look at just the 30 degrees there to label the length of our sides. And looking at our 30 degree triangle, we see that our sides are 1, root 3, and 2. Now, the reason that this is -1 is because we're down here in the third quadrant, and our y values going this way are negative. And the reason that this is negative root 3 is because in the second quadrant, our x values are negative. And then we have a 2 for our hypotenuse. Now, this is not negative. This is describing our slope here, and our slope is positive. So, based on that information, the sine of 210 degrees, opposite over hypotenuse, using our trig ratios that we know, gives us -1 over 2, or -1/2. That was our sine. Now, sometimes we can't use a reference angle, and we want to make sure that we can use our calculators as well. So the next few questions are going to deal with using your calculator. So let's say we're told to find the tangent of 61 degrees and 40 minutes. That's what this little mark here means, 40 minutes. Now, if you recall from a previous lesson, there are 40 minutes in a degree. So if we were to write this as a fraction, a rational number, we've got 40 degrees here. and 40 over 60 minutes. 40 divided by 60 gives us 0.67 degrees. So this total amount is 40.67 degrees. Or 61.67 degrees. I was reading that incorrectly. 61 degrees and 40 minutes is the same as 61.67 degrees. We can type that into our calculator using the tangent button, 61.67. Hit that tangent button, and you see that the tangent of 61 degrees and 40 minutes is 1.855. Remember that we are trying to find ratios, and these ratios can help us solve other problems later on down the road. Let's do another calculator problem here and find the cosine of 118 degrees. So, using your calculator, plug that number in, 118 degrees, hit that cosine button, and you should find that it's negative 0.4695. That's in the second quadrant. That's why we have that negative number there. Now, not all calculators come with buttons for cotangent, secant, or cosecant. Yours might, but if not, you may have to rely on your knowledge that cosecant, secant, and cotangent are just reciprocals of the initial three trig values. Remember that cosecant is just a reciprocal of 1 over sine. So the cosecant of 63 is 1 over the sine of 63. You can use your calculator to find the sine of 63 degrees, which gets you around 0.8910. And then on your calculator, you should see a reciprocal key that looks like 1 over x or x to the negative 1 power. Either one of those will act as reciprocal keys. After we find the sine, we can use that 1 over x or x to the negative 1 button and find that the cosecant of 63 is approximately 1.1223. We can also use that inverse button to find the angle when we're told what the ratio is. We can use the inverse trig function keys to find the angle associated with the given ratio. So let's take this example. The sine of an angle, the sine of B, whatever that angle is, we'll draw theta there, is 0.4848. So here we're given the ratio and not told what the angle is. How do we go about solving that? Well, we type 0.4848 into our calculator, and we're going to use that sine to the negative 1 button to find out that the sine of an angle with 0.4848, that's 29 degrees. You can also refer to the chart of trig values in the back of your book or online, but using your calculator is a little bit easier. Now, what about the tangent of a given angle being 0.5317? See if you can figure that out using your calculator. So you typed 0.5317 and you hit that tangent to the negative 1 button and found out that this angle was 28 degrees. If you have any questions about how to use your calculator, make sure you do ask me when we are in class together. There will often be two angle measures in the interval between 0 and 360 degrees that are associated with a given trig ratio. Reference angles can be used to find the one or the ones your calculator does not give you. So more than one angle measure will have the same ratio because we can keep going in circles and circles and circles like we talked about with those coterminal angles. Keep in mind your values when you're looking at angles and what quadrant they finish in. If you're looking at something in the first quadrant, you've got two positive values. If you're looking in the second quadrant in our Cartesian plane, that's over here, we've got the x value is negative, but the y value is positive. In the third quadrant, that's that bottom left corner, we've got two negative values. And when we're looking at our fourth quadrant, we know our x is positive, but our y value is negative. That's going to affect the signs in front of your trig ratio. So just be aware of where your angle is where that terminal ray is when you're looking at these angles. Okay, because of where they finish in the Cartesian plane, that's going to affect the signs of your trig functions as well. Everything in quadrant 1 is going to be positive. In quadrant 2, our sine will be positive, but cosine and tangent will be negative. In quadrant 3, our sine and cosine will both be negative, but our tangent's going to be positive. In quadrant 4, our sine is negative, cosine is positive, and tangent is negative. Again, we'll see that when we continue to fill out our unit circles. This is just a reference for you to be aware of those signs when you're looking at terminal rays and what quadrants they fall in. So, as a quick review, today you found the reference angles and you used them to determine trig ratios. We also learned how to use our calculators to find trig ratios, how to find inverse ratios or reciprocal ratios of cotangent, secant, and cosecant, and how to use that inverse button to find an angle measure when you're given the ratio to begin with. If you guys have any questions, be sure to ask me in class. I'll see you next time.